Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Anonymous Live. If you are new here, this is a very different kind of place. This is not entertainment. This is not entertaining. This is a place where we will be listening to anonymous callers for about 2 hours. We do these streams 2 times a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. In the evenings, we do it late at night when we know people are going to be home and not at work, distracted by life. These are the times when things tend to come to mind, things that we're going through. And so we've intentionally done this stream late at night, even though it's not a popular time to stream. In fact, it's probably the least popular time to stream. But here we are. This is when we do it. 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we're here every week on those days. So we are here. Lines are opening. We had a little bit of a delay tonight. I hope everybody can hear me all right. We had there was a brief test stream earlier, but then a restart was needed because we're now, it's technical, but we recently switched over this stream onto a completely different computer system, totally different operating system. And there have been it's been more stable, but there have been other inconsistencies that have come along with that. So if you're new here, bear with us. Thank you for waiting. I'll go a little bit later tonight if necessary. Not a problem. But yeah, thank you guys for waiting. And we are getting everything booted up now. If you're new here, we have a 1-800 number that's toll-free. You can call. And so long as you remain anonymous, we'll talk about anything that's on your mind. Roughly, we try to keep the calls to about 30 minutes. We have, I would say like maybe 1/3 of the calls, probably less than 1/3 of the calls are repeat or return callers who are calling with updates. So a lot of people are calling in with updates that called in months ago. Giving us like positive feedback, and these calls are typically shorter. But if you're new here, you can expect roughly a 30-minute call. And again, like we just ask people not get ideological or political or, we're just here to listen. The chat and I listen to calls, and I will feature chats here during calls that are relevant to the caller. And if it's your first time calling, we just ask that you read the video description before calling so that you understand what we're doing here. We hate toasting people. Toasting is kind of like a slang here that we use for hanging up on you. We don't like hanging up on people, but I will hang up on you if you call in and you're not prepared to remain anonymous completely. That means no names, no locations. And so long as you give yourself the anonymity that we're asking you give yourself, we can talk for 30 minutes. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer, but roughly around 30 minutes. And each stream is so special. This project is the highlight of my week. This is my favorite project I'm working on right now. It just feels like a beautiful community it's turning into. Also, the Discord community. I see some calls coming in. I'm just taking a second to mention a couple things here that are important. The Discord community, if you're new here, is a beautiful place for you guys to connect if you're not able to get into a call here, or even if you get into a call here and are looking for more community or open-minded people who can listen and empathize with difficult experiences. The Discord community we have going on for Anonymous Live is amazing. The link is in the video description. Also, you'll probably see it plugged here a number of times in the chat by some of our mods. They're very good about plugging this. In fact, I'm anticipating that one of them is going to plug it here soon, because every time I mention the Discord, I inevitably see it end up in the chat. I don't have the link handy, unfortunately. I could get it, but it's already in the video description. So there it is. Easy Cheesy's on it. The link is in the video description, or you can click the link Easy Cheesy just put in the chat. That is, again, to the Discord server, which is kind of a community here that we use when we only do these streams twice a week. So, if you're looking for more than that, if you're looking for like just good friends, good people, open-minded people, our Discord server is full of people like that. So that's what the Discord is. All right, we are going to dive into some calls. Here we go. Hello, thanks for calling.
Hello.
Hello, thanks for calling. Can we start with your age and a brief intro?
So I'm 24 years old, and I'm sorry I've tried so many times, and I never really get through, so I always have my introduction prepared, but I'm like feeling super on the spot right now, so I apologize for this.
No problem. Take a second if you need. No problem.
So basically, I don't know. My reason for calling is I always feel like the odd one out in my friend group. I felt this way, my entire life. A little bit of background: I suffer from severe ADHD, so it's really hard for me to stay on topic, and I find that my friends notice this, and sometimes it is one of the reasons that I'm excluded. One thing one thing I don't lack in is self-awareness, so I always kind of have an idea of how people feel about me. However, sometimes I feel like that could be a bit of paranoia too. Do you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sounds like my guess would be you haven't shared much, but my guess would be, based on where you're going, that you're very self-conscious.
Yes, absolutely. The funny thing is, though, is a lot of people would think that I'm the type that doesn't care what other people think, but I think that's just a persona that I put off as like a defense mechanism.
You project self-consciousness as a self-defense mechanism.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that I'm kind of, for lack of other words, I've always kind of had that class clown mentality, even in my adulthood. So people would think that I'm not as self-conscious as I actually am, because I'm usually the first one to answer a question when called upon. The first one to reply in a situation. If I was at a concert and they asked somebody to come up on stage, I would instantly say yes, even though I'd kind of be like screaming on the inside. But like I said, it's really easy for me to get off topic, and I guess that's not exactly what I want to speak about. I just find lately, more than in the past, friends are disappearing one after another. And I get it, we get older, people change. But I just feel like there could be one specific thing that I'm doing that's like almost like friend repellent and acquaintance repellent. And it's just, I don't know, it's just hard on me, I guess, to say at the least.
Well, you mentioned ADHD and self-consciousness.
Yeah.
So how are those two things connected to what you're talking about? Maybe you don't know. That's okay if you...
Yeah, exactly. I definitely sense some annoyance with friends when I finally do get included in certain plans. I don't even do it intentionally. You know, a conversation will be in depth, and I guess to say the least, sometimes I'm not included in the conversation, but yet I try to I don't put myself into it without relevance almost, if that makes any sense. I'll put myself into the conversation by saying something almost random, just to almost feel included. And quite frankly, it can even be embarrassing at times. I also suffer from a bit of impulse control as well. So sometimes when I make decisions like this, I can very quickly regret it, but kind of have to roll with it because, you know, it's already in progress.
That sounds like the ADHD talking.
Absolutely.
So you got this cocktail of experience going on where you're ADHD and sometimes you put your foot in your mouth, or sometimes you do things that you wish you hadn't done because it's impulse control. And sometimes you just react and then you wish you could take the reaction back. And then it sounds like you have this self-awareness that's pulling on that. You have this acute self-awareness that is hyper aware of when you are putting your foot in your mouth.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I have seeked medical help in the past through a family physician, and I've probably been put on pretty close to every medication that there is. And the personality changes were so severe that and I do apologize for my language, I'd rather live in this clusterfuck than be the person that I am on those medications, if that makes any sense. You know, just the background on some of the things I noticed, like severe, like verbal aggression, and anytime somebody would speak to me on some of these medications, or almost hyper focused to the point where I become so fixated on something that I wouldn't be able to focus on anything else around me, which almost sounds like the exact opposite of the ADHD, and
Right.
not much better.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not.
I have found some. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
So I will say, you know, watching Anonymous live, I have found some comfort in some of the other callers that have called in and the experiences that they share. So if any of them are listening, I would like to thank them for that, and you yourself, Julian.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. I just want to go out of my way to say that, you know, of course, I'm not an expert on things like ADHD. I'm not an expert on a number of things that we talk about here. I'm just somebody that, like, you can think of me as a friend. You can think as like I started this project because I sensed that this was a space that was needed, that people need a place to just talk without fear of the police being called on them or them being sent to uh, a psych ward, because these are concerns that come up when people, I mean, these are things that keep people from going to therapy. And I believe that therapy is one of the best things that someone can do for themselves. And there's somehow all this resistance to things like therapy. And so I'm starting this place just to, like, get people talking about what's on their minds. We're doing it late at night so that there's no obstacles of work conflicting, and people can call when they're at home. And so I'm just stating, like, I'm not an expert on the things that we're talking about. I'm not an expert on ADHD. I'm not an expert on self-consciousness or anything that you're talking about, but I'm just here to create a space for you to think out loud, and I'll regurgitate some things from the chat that come in. This is basically an open forum for you. It sounds like you already know that because it sounds like you're watching these streams.
Yeah,
But I try to go out of my way to say that just so that there's no confusion. I don't want people thinking I think I'm an expert in these things, or that I think I can help everybody, because that's not the point. I don't think I'm kind of, this isn't a place where you come get your problem solved. but it is a place where we can think out loud, and maybe you get some ideas from the chat or me. So, with that being said, what kinds of things are you doing that you think put people off?
Probably sometimes taking a joke too far. One thing I do stress to my friends, if you're having a problem with something that I'm saying, ask me to stop, and I will most certainly stop. But I think they have this mindset as well that, well, we shouldn't have to ask you to stop, but I'm self-aware to the point that I know that I can cross boundaries with jokes and things that the other people might even not consider as jokes. So I try to set these boundaries so that, they can bring it to my attention before it gets too far. And sometimes by the look on someone's face, I'll just realize to shut up much too late in a situation.
Right. I know that feeling.
It's definitely not my goal to come off as an asshole or a jerk, but I just feel like it comes off way more often than it should. I feel really bad about it. I know I've pushed certain friends away over the years because of it, and it's not my intention by any means whatsoever. My main goal is
You feel bad about it? You really feel bad about it?
I do.
What does that feel like, feeling bad about that? When you make a joke and it doesn't go well, what does that feel like? It doesn't go well, and
it just feels like my heart sinks to the bottom of my chest, and it's a very upsetting feeling. It's hard to describe when put on the spot, to be honest, but
right.
I'm trying to think of a similar feeling or a similar situation that could help me describe the way that I feel once I realize I've gone too far. And something that I could think of would be if you were to address someone by the incorrect pronoun and you can tell that they were, quite offended by it, and, apologizing and retracting it can only do so much. It's the feeling that I would get in that situation, because I know that people in that situation are fighting every day for equality and whatnot, and I, just belittled it unintentionally. But I won't touch too much on stuff like that, because I know it's not what this is for.
Right. Really interesting what you're saying. This is not something that
I almost
is very.
have a
Go ahead.
Like an insider's perspective, and not in every case, but from the bully in certain instances, because there's certain people that could interpret the way that I am as being awful and mean, cruel, rude,
right.
and not in every situation. I will say I'm not out here making racial remarks and things like that. I just have trouble drawing the line.
Yeah. So I haven't fully found a way to reinforce this thought with a source. So I just want to, again, this is why I'm going out of my way to say, I'm not an expert. So we're having a conversation here. What I provide here is a conversation. We're going to have a conversation. I'm going to attempt to provide you with some reading or some thoughts from the chat or from myself, from personal experience. But what you're touching on is something that it's not strange to me, but I feel like it's going to be strange to a lot of people. Because I don't think a lot of people my guess is maybe a lot of people don't have a slot for what you're going through. Let's talk. Before I go into what I'm going into, let's talk about what you just said. You said you have a tendency to say things that are polarizing, and then you have an ability to recognize, after you've already released that with your voice, to recognize that what you just said did not sit well with the listening ears available to you at the time. And so you then take in a bunch of guilt or shame for what it was you said, even though what you said was not meant to be taken spitefully. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So what you're talking... go ahead.
My one, but I can almost, do the exact opposite unintentionally.
Right. So this is why the court jester in ancient history was such a controversial figure. Like the court jester, the reason we have a Joker card in a deck of cards, you go to Target or Walmart or Amazon, you buy a deck of cards, wherever you get your cards from, it doesn't matter. There's going to be a Joker card in there. That Joker card is there for a reason. In fact, every card is there for a reason. But the Joker card is there because the Joker, and it's not even as shallow as the Joker card. This is why one of the best-selling movies of the last decade is a movie called Joker. The Joker is what we would call the court jester. It's a very controversial historical figure that would be more often than not beheaded if they gave the wrong joke. These were figures that the king, again, a king, not a president, a king would hire these court jesters to tell jokes, to bring levity to gravity-laden situations and tell jokes. And if the jester told a bad joke, they would be beheaded. Like, more often than not, jokers were beheaded. That's why the Joker is a great anti-hero. That's why there's like 2 whole movies about him now that are being made. I think the sequel's in production. I'm actually not up on that production, but I know that it's a very successful franchise that is being developed around the Joker from Batman. The point I'm trying to make is that, like, what you're talking about is the dark empath. There is a dark empath that's known as the heyoka empath. Are you familiar with that term, the heyoka empath?
I'm not familiar with it, but if this makes any sense, it does sound familiar. I'll have to do some digging after this call because you've definitely sparked my interest.
The heyoka empath is not like what we would call science, as far as I know. I could be wrong. Maybe it is science. So like I'd be willing to be wrong that I'd be willing to be wrong in that point that there is a scientific explanation for it. But the heyoka empath is not a new idea. It's a very ancient idea. So whether or not it's scientific, it's historical. And the heyoka empath is the dark empath. It's the empath that is most commonly associated with the court jester. Again, this is why court jesters were more often than not beheaded. Because if they had a bad joke and the king didn't like it, the king could order them to have their head cut off. Meaning that the heyoka empath is an empath, but they see the dark side of things and they're able to make jokes about it. And so it's a controversial figure because the heyoka empath, if they're put in the wrong setting, can be made to feel like they're putting their foot in their mouth. Now, I'm not telling you you're a heyoka empath, but I'm asking if you're familiar with that idea because it sounds like what you're describing.
Yeah, definitely not familiar with it, but after you bringing it up, it is something I'd like to look into. Maybe I could find, some similar experiences or feelings that like similar to what I'm having from others, because I have, looked online for people who feel the same way that I do, but you can only search Google for what you're looking for if you know what words to put in.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Like
exactly.
Putting in, I feel like an asshole and my friends don't like me. What should I do? I'm not going to get exactly what I'm looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It sounds like what I'm saying, at least. I think I'm tracking with you. Yeah, heyoka empath. It's like hey, Hey. Oh, the way I remember how to spell it is hey, Hey, like hey, hey, okay, a, hey, okay, a. That's how you spell heyoka. I don't have a source to reference you to. There's a Psychology Today article that I'll plug here, but I have not read this. It's called Introducing the Dark Empath. The term heyoka does not appear anywhere in this article, but I'm going to plug this. People make of it what you will. Maybe it's completely off topic, but I've done a bunch of reading on heyokas because like empaths are interesting, and there's like several different types of empaths. But the heyoka empath is one of the more enigmatic ones because they're usually somewhat reclusive because they develop this awareness that their sense of humor is dangerous, meaning like in ancient times it could mean you're going to be beheaded by the king, just to draw some contrast on it. So the heyoka is not like it's not science, but it's definitely historical, like in terms of an archetype. So the heyoka is it's hard to like this in other words, this Psychology Today article I'm about to put in the chat for you, I have no idea if it's relevant to the heyoka, but it's called Introducing the Dark Empath, and I found it by googling heyoka empath psychology. So there's probably there's most definitely got to be a better source for this, but I'm on the spot, and so I'm putting this in the chat for you. Hang on, I'm putting this wrong window. Psychology Today article on, there's so many typos, on dark empathy. So yeah, it's in there for you. I have no idea if it's relevant to the actual heyoka or what, but you can Google heyoka is Googleable. You can Google heyoka and find it, but I'm struggling to find an actual academic article on the heyoka, probably for very definable reasons. I wonder what the etymology is of heyoka. I've never looked that up. Etymology heyoka. But I'll do that in the background. I feel like maybe we're getting away from the topic. I felt like that was maybe relevant. So let's open the floor back up to you to hear a bit about more of your of what you're going through.
I almost feel bad because a lot of people that are close to me in my life, like my wife and people that are extremely close to me, have almost worked around this to the point where as soon as I am just slightly going past what I call the point of no return with and I don't even like to call them jokes because 90% of the time people will reply to me, I don't consider that a joke.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's the heyoka. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
A good joke, a very good joke, is hard to distinguish from the truth. That's what the heyoka does. That's why the kings, the heyokas in history were that's why they were hired as court jesters. Like maybe we take the term court jester for granted, but like a court jester in ancient history, in a world dominated by kings, and in some countries queens, but in more places than probably ought to have been, they were dominated by testosterone-laden individuals who would behead people if they told a bad joke. These were people, like, why were they put in this position? They were put in this position because they were recognized for their ability to comment on difficult subjects with
this year.
What's that?
I said it sounds like a lot like the incident at the Oscars this year.
Will Smith slapping Chris Rock?
Yeah, following
you're calling Will Smith and a heyoka empath for slapping Chris Rock? I'm not sure that transfers.
I'm calling Chris Rock the Hellcat path for the G.I. Jane joke.
Oh man, these are hot takes I'm gonna avoid, but it's an interesting perspective. I'm gonna avoid that. That's an interesting take. That's an interesting interpolation of that. But yeah, that's. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying like I don't know. Like maybe I don't know the situation well enough. All I know is that Will Smith slapped Chris Rock for making fun of uh, Jada Pinkett, or however you say her last name. So she, I don't know that situation at all. I don't even know. I'm saying Jada could be a Smith for all I know. Like that's how I don't read tabloids or anything. All I know is that Will Smith slapped Chris Rock for making a joke about Jada. So apologies, however I'm butchering that. But the heyoka is like like they would like I mean it makes it like I don't even know that it's like history or science that a king would have called a jester a heyoka. I'm pretty sure heyoka. I actually have a tab open for etymology of heyoka because I never looked it up and I haven't researched it at all because we're talking here and I'm trying to listen. But it's an interesting question you had about like. It seems like you're asking like the actual place these people had, and I don't actually claim to know that. I'm not here to educate people. I'm not here to like tell people what they ought to think about this. But the heyoka empath is a real thing. That is It's the dark jester. These were most of the jesters that would have been beheaded in the time, in ancient times, where who else is a king gonna hire? I mean, think about a king. In the times that the Torah was being written, that was a world of like thousands of kings. We don't even have a slot for that world today. How many kings and queens are alive today? Maybe less than
One
10.
left.
I don't even know the actual number. But it's probably less than 10 would be my guess. Most of these people are dictators or presidents or something like that. So the point is, like, you're talking about a time thousands of years ago where there were thousands of kings, and we don't know how many, at least I don't know how many queens, but there were thousands of kings. That is a very different world than we live in now. And these kings hired people for their courts who could make light of their courts. That's not an easy job. Somebody to like, you're talking about like a picture of the most fierce judge you can imagine. It seems like you're calling from a U.S. number. I don't recognize your area code, but it sounds like you're an American citizen. Imagine the fiercest judge in America, and imagine that they want someone in their court telling jokes. Like, that's the world this was. Like, imagine how difficult of a job that would have been. What other kind of person is that going to be? It's going to be a person who can empathize with the plaintiff. It's going to be a person who can empathize with the defendant. It's going to be a person who can empathize with the entire situation and tell jokes that might lead the jury towards some truth.
And one thing I would like to add too, not that, and this is definitely coming back to my self-conscious nature. Not all of my jokes go this poorly. I'm not always personally victimizing someone. A good 65 to maybe 77% of the time, everyone is having a good time and laughing. It's just, I've always said this, and maybe, makes me a glass half empty kind of guy. People tend to remember the bad things that happen more than they remember the good. And I'm not sure exactly why that is, but it just, I know I could be laughing with a buddy for a few hours, and if he turned around and punched me in the face, well, the only thing I'm going to remember about that night is the punch in the face.
Well, that's what you call loss aversion.
Mm-hmm.
Loss aversion means...
I've never heard the term. If you could you explain it to me a little bit?
You never heard of loss aversion?
No, I can say I'm ignorant on the term.
Loss aversion, there are several studies that back this up. I'm going to inevitable. There's now 3 tabs I have open based on this conversation. You're going I actually applaud you. Like you're giving me more than I can possibly back up as a YouTuber, but this is something you can look up. Loss aversion, there are several studies around this that claim that people are more like to put it as simple as possible. If you give someone the opportunity to make $20 as opposed to lose $20, they're going to protect the $20 they could lose over making $20 or even $40. People, in other words, people don't want to make money. They just don't want to. They don't want to lose money. That's loss aversion. You can look it up. I'm not going to be able to. Unfortunately, I'm not here to tell you what to think. Please do your own research.
I totally understand. But that is something else I'd like to look into. I'm definitely going to
do very short calls here. I don't know what it is exactly that you need tonight, but I'm trying to answer. I struggle here, honestly, like with a lot of calls, because I get a lot of calls like yours that are very inquisitive, and like I don't want to make you feel like I have all the answers. I don't. I've done a lot of reading. I've been through a lot in my life. Loss aversion is a real thing. Heyoka empathy is a real thing. You can I'm trying to give you some keywords that you can do some digging on and go on your own rabbit hole with. And if you want to call back again anytime with like a challenge or a plot thickening update or a positive update, you can. But we can't get too ideological here, because it's not the point of this stream here. You know, we want to. It's the most difficult part of the stream.
Before we end this call, is that, like, I don't know. I genuinely think my main reason for calling was not to get much out of the call in regards to, you know, therapy, as much as it was to have somebody impartially, somebody who doesn't know me, who doesn't have a preconceived disposition.
Right. So what would make this a good call? What's the ultimate question? And maybe that's a difficult question for me to ask. Maybe you don't know the ultimate question, but you're touching on a lot of. I will tell you this: you're touching on a lot of very dense topics. I responded with heyoka empathy, which is a very dense topic. You can spend like a lifetime learning about that. You touched on a number of things here that, again, like I've got a number of tabs open. I opened tabs here to try to find sources while I was listening, but I'm listening more than researching. So I'm not going to be able to provide you with the sources that I'm thinking of, but I do stand by everything that I said. I'm also not here to educate you. I encourage you to do your own research. I'm willing to be wrong. You can at me with any problems you have with anything I said. I'm not going to get everything right, but these are things that have meant a lot to me, and I actually resonate with a lot of what you're saying. A lot of what you're saying makes 100% sense to me. Like, I fully believe that you are a person that puts your foot in your mouth a lot. I put my foot in my mouth a lot. I have a video on my channel called Straight Rights, for crying out loud. It's like that video was, I'm just saying, like, I get it. Like, it's not about like things on the channel, but my point is, like, when you say these things, like, I totally get it. Like, you're touching on, you make jokes about things that people aren't prepared for. And when you're face to face with someone and you make that joke, it's very different. It comes across very differently than it might in a YouTube comment or in a text message, or and the jokes we tell in text do make a difference between what we tell in person, face to face. If you say something face to face, the person is not reading it. There are so many jokes that require you to read them to get them. And then there are jokes that require you to hear them and not read them in order to get them. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It 100% makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
More than I won't say more than you can understand, because you're the one who said it, but it does make a lot of sense.
Like I said, I put my foot in my mouth a lot of times because I. Exactly.
And just you resonating with me that, I'm not just a hopeless asshole with no regard for anyone else. It definitely makes me feel better about the situation, because just anytime I've tried to bring up this type of conversation with anyone close to me, their simple response was to stop being an asshole. And it's not as simple as it sounds. I know it sounds very simple.
Well, you're not an asshole. That's the conundrum. That's what I'm hearing from you. You're not an asshole. You actually feel horrible when someone says that to you. Is that right? Do you actually feel horrible? Or is it just like, whatever, they didn't, I don't care what they think? It sounds to me like you actually feel horrible.
Situational. You know, I could be a bit conceited and cocky with certain jokes that I make too. Sometimes I feel as though people shouldn't be feeling so personally
yeah, but that's different. That's what,
but not all the time.
Yeah.
That's not a great majority. But I definitely don't want to say that, you know, I'm a saint. I'm definitely somewhere in the middle between saint and asshole.
Well, I'm trying to encourage you here. I'm not trying to belabor any points. I'm still tracking with you. Everything you're saying is still making sense to me in terms of the things that I've mentioned here, like heyoka, empathy, and we've covered so many topics here, but like, take the heyoka empath. That's the one thing that sticks out to me as number one. Like, when I think of heyoka empathy, I think of people like, I think of Jim Carrey. I think of I'm gonna fumble through this, and I'm gonna inevitably take heat because I'm gonna mention some controversial comedians, but I'm gonna mention comedians that have raised good jokes that I'm not standing by all these comedians' jokes, but I'm thinking of people who've been under fire. I'm thinking of people like Jim Carrey. I'm thinking of people like Louis C.K. I'm thinking of people like even Joe Rogan at times. Like, I don't love everything Joe Rogan says. I think he's wrong a lot of the time, and he's also not an educator. He's not here to educate people. He interviews people, that are educators. But I'm mentioning comedians, who are very let's talk about the things you've touched on. You've talked about self-consciousness when you're cracking a joke. You've talked about acute self-awareness when a joke goes poorly. You've talked about feeling horrible when a joke goes poorly. And these are things that, I'm not telling you to lean into what your friends would call being an asshole, because you will wind up with zero friends. I'm saying, like, there's an edge to telling a joke. A good joke has an edge. A good joke is edgy. That's what makes a good joke. A good joke is edgy, but you have to realize when you're being edgy, and you have to understand that the joke is always on someone. And so who is the joke on? Is the joke on you? If the joke's on you, it's okay. Is the joke on someone else? If the joke's on someone else, it's not okay. If you're making fun of someone else, it's not okay. If the joke is a social statement that is ultimately on yourself or on culture at large, it's okay. But if you're singling out an individual, the joke is not okay, because nobody wants to be the target of a joke. Nobody wants to be the butt of a joke.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how to sum up what you have called in with an amazing topic. I want to recognize that. I'm not going to be able to address this topic even if I stayed on the phone with you the entire 2 hours tonight, we wouldn't be able to get to the bottom of it. So I want to invite you to call again. I'm trying to think of maybe something you could read. I would encourage you to read about heyoka empathy and the history surrounding the court jester. And I don't know of any good books on this, but there are thousands of articles on these things that you can read about. So I would invite you to maybe do some reading on those topics, and then call again in a couple weeks or a few weeks or however long you need, and we'll have another conversation. We won't be. You're asking very, in my opinion, very good questions, but like these are dense topics.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the information that you've given me to look into. I appreciate you, making me feel validated, and just for taking my call tonight. It means a lot to have somebody listen. So thank you. And I am going to look at the chat and see what people have been saying throughout the call. I definitely didn't want to have it open while I was speaking to you because of the whole ADHD situation. I didn't want to focus on what they were saying rather than what you were saying, because what you were saying is happening here and now, and I can look at the comments afterwards and they'll still be there.
That's great. Yeah, I failed to mention anything from the chat during your call. I'm sorry, chat, but there was a bunch of good stuff in there. And before you go, I will plug one thing from the chat that came in from one of our mods, King's Pawn. David is his name. Sorry, David. I hope you don't mind that I added you with your first name there. But King's Pawn says to you, being on the darker side of humor myself, I try to live above reproach to protect others. And I think that's the ultimate edge. If you are indeed some kind of heyoka empath, or somebody who has empathetic, in other words, a heyoka empath is somebody who has empathetic jokes that have a dark edge to them that a lot of people won't have a slot for. Again, this is the court jester that was often beheaded in ancient history. That's what the king did to the jester whose jokes they didn't like. Like, the court jester made a joke on the king, or a joke that wasn't wise enough. Like, they just had their head cut off. Like, that's what King's Pawn is getting at. He's ironically named King's Pawn. Maybe not so ironically. But yeah, so the point is that the jokes we have to be very wise about the jokes that we tell. It's very easy to let it, especially as a heyoka empath, because you see absurdity all over the place, and so you have to be very calculated on what jokes actually come out of your mouth. That would be my take.
Right. Well, I do want to thank you for taking my call tonight. And this definitely isn't something I wanted to touch on near the beginning of the call, but I did want to thank you for all the laughs growing up. It definitely helped me out a lot, to say it the least. But that's not what this call is about. So, thank you.
Thank you for calling. You can call again anytime. Wishing you the best. Take care. Good night. Chat, I apologize. I've hit the soundboard a couple times, and I just realized it wasn't on. I had to reboot the system. Freaking Windows, guys. Freaking Windows. There's just way too much to think about with Windows. Goodness gracious. I am not a fan. Mac OS. Mac OS is where it's at. Windows hardware with Mac OS. How do I make it happen? Hello, thanks for calling.
Oh, wow, I got through. Sorry, let me go into the other room.
No problem. Take your time.
I'm calling tonight because I need to vent, and I have like a very long backstory, but before I get sidetracked, I want to just get down to what I think the root of the issue is, and that's I want to know if I'm doing, or if I've done the right thing. Like, I want to know what everyone's perspective is on cutting out certain people from your life that's toxic, and if that's okay to do, if they're related to you. And I want to know how to deal with, like, guilt that isn't, I don't know how to explain it, but like feeling guilty for something that you can't control. But just to vent and get into it. So my father died when I was 17. I'm 23 now. But I suffered from really bad PTSD because it was just me and him my whole life. And I literally, I held him in my arms when he died, and it was just me and him, and it was really traumatic for me. I was able to kind of overcome it in some aspects. Like, I graduated valedictorian, I kept my grades up. I did go on to, get married and be successful kind of and get a house, but I feel like even with the successes that I've had, like, I can never, move on from that fully. I have prayed about it, and so it's helped tremendously as far as like anxiety with praying and stuff, so I thank God for that. But I still feel like his death was my fault because he made me sign a DNR order, like a do not resuscitate. He wanted me to sign that when he died, like right before he died, and I didn't want to sign it. But that's what he wanted, so I did anyway, and ever since I signed it, I feel like it's my fault. And as far as cutting out toxic people goes, right after he died, certain members of my family took me, members of my family that I had never met before until he died. And just to preface this, I was the only one written into the will. I got everything, the house, the money, the car. He left money and a car that had been fully paid off. I got everything in the will. But when he died, like the day after he died, they came in, they took the will, they took me. They weren't supposed to take me. I didn't know this. I didn't find out till later that someone else, another family member that was close to me, was supposed to be the executor and take over. But these people weren't even mentioned in the will at all. And so they took everything that he had left me, and I have documentation where they spent all the money from the estate on alcohol and different trips and expenses like that when they weren't supposed to. And on top of that, I got a full ride because I was valedictorian to college. And when I went to change my grades in college, like to change to different classes in the next semester, I noticed on my student account that there was a student loan that I didn't sign. And so I went to my financial aid advisor, and then they printed out the loan for me, and it was their information, their contact information listed under my name, and it was a typed name that they had signed it. So they had signed the loan without my knowledge, as if they were me, and they were getting the refund checks sent back to them. And at that point, I was always.
Are you
like,
talking about
really
identity
obedient.
theft? Was that identity theft? I'm sorry to stop you, but you're talking about identity theft?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they signed a loan, yeah, in my name. And I'm sorry, I know it's a long story, but I just need to.
No, I'm tracking.
But,
it's okay.
But yeah, so at that point, I've always been really obedient. I've always been told, like, respect your elders, just do whatever they tell you to do. And at that point, like, something in me just snapped, and I was like, no. And it wasn't just that. It was also the fact that they were talking about my now husband. They were talking about his family and trying to drag his family. And so, but those things combined, something in me just snapped, and I was like, no, I'm not going to take this anymore. So I went to the campus police, and I filed police reports. But we eventually moved from where we were, and I got a lawyer and got a settlement, and I told him, my husband was like, he was really spiteful about it, but I just wanted to forgive. But he was like, you need to go after the house, the money, because they let my house foreclose on. My house had 1 year left to pay it off, and my dad left the money in the bank to pay it off with, and they let it foreclose. So yeah, that really sucks. But yeah, my husband was like, you need to sue them for everything. You need to just take them to the cleaners basically and get everything back. And I said, no, I just want them to get the loan out of my name, and I want them to pay for my lawyer. And so that's what I did. And I fought with them back and forth on that. And then they came back with like some arrogant responses. And then my lawyer was finally like, okay, fine, we'll see you in court. And when we see you in court, we're going to take you for everything, not just that. And then that's when, like, they're like, fine, we'll settle, just whatever. And the only thing that they got done their way was in the agreement, they put it basically a gag order on me that I couldn't divulge things, and that's why I'm remaining anonymous. So that technically I'm not divulging anything about them. But yeah, so today I found out that they had been going against the order and telling everybody else all the other stuff, which I already knew they were. They were telling like fake stuff about it, but I'm expected not to say anything, which is BS. There's another member of the family that unfortunately I still have to be in contact with because I take care of one of my family members. And they are closely related to that family member, and that family member doesn't want to cut them out because that's their child, which is understandable. But that family member is also a piece of crap because when my dad died, her house was supposed to go to him because he took care of her. And he made my dad switch the deeds on his deathbed, which was illegal as well. But I'm not going to take him to court because it's not even worth it, honestly. But I just want to know, like, am I doing the right thing by cutting these people out of my life? Because my family member that I take care of, like, she'll sit there and say, like, oh, you need to forgive. And it's like, I have forgiven. I wish them the best in life, but I want them to do it away from me. So I don't know if that's okay to do, but I feel like in my heart I know that I've forgiven them. But
yes, well, it sounds like you've got two issues. It sounds like you've got two issues. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm just now hearing your story, so if I'm missing something, please stop me. But it sounds like you've got two issues. If you're just joining, we have a caller who is the sole beneficiary of an estate from her father, whom she was holding in her arms, it sounds like, at the time of death. And you were also, it sounds like, the only valedictorian to graduate in your family. It sounds like your father really believed in you. It sounds like your father left you everything. It sounds like you were the last person to hold him, or one of the last people to hold him in his moments of life. It sounds like he left you everything. It sounds like you were the only valedictorian. So again, I'm saying there's two things at play here. It sounds like you went through some identity theft apart from the stuff we were just talking about. Somebody recognized that you were a sole beneficiary and were coming after you for some money that they knew you had. This is what lawyers do. And it sounds like the first issue, that's the second issue. The first issue, it sounds like, is you're really confused about your dad because it sounds like maybe there is some questions around what you meant to him and why he left you everything.
I know that I was, like, I had him wrapped around my finger. Essentially, I was his little girl. Like, I know that we had something, like, inseparable and everything. Like, we were really close. My whole life it was always just me and him. And I took care of him while I was in school too. Like, I had to have my work sent home with me because I would have to bathe him. He got partially paralyzed when the cancer went to his brain. So I would have to pull him out of the bathtub and stuff, and I actually hurt my back one day when I pulled him out. But I mean, I took care of this man. I dressed him, I fed him, I did everything. But I just feel like it was my fault. I feel like I should have done something else. I feel like I shouldn't have let him go in hospice on that last day. I should have kept him in the hospital instead. I should have signed that DNR. I went to Walmart and I cried for 2 hours before I finally signed it, before I finally came back to the facility and signed it. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about just ending it, but I made a promise with God that I wouldn't. And if it wasn't for my faith and if I didn't believe I would go to hell, I would kill myself right now. I would, in a heartbeat. If God told me, hey, you won't go to hell for killing yourself, I'd kill myself right now.
You're incredibly brave. You've been through a lot. You have.
I'm sorry for crying. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. No, you can use this place however you want. You're incredibly brave. I've got some tears coming to my eyes hearing your story.
That means a lot coming from you. Like, you do mean a lot.
You are incredibly brave. You are. Let's break that down. How brave are you?
So
How
like
old
I'm
was your
not
dad
brave.
when he
I feel
died? How old was your dad when he died?
he was I want to say 50 something, like late 50s or early 60s. He had me
What did he die from?
after he died from lung cancer. He smoked.
There you go.
That went to his brain.
Your dad's death was not your fault. He smoked. It sounds like he smoked long enough to get lung cancer and die at the age of 50. And I know you might not like to hear that, but I'm trying to take some weight off your shoulders in saying that. Your father's death was not your fault. Those were his choices. And he loved you. He left you everything. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I was basically an only child, essentially. The thing is, the family members that did this to me, they were all in their 40s. I had never met them. They were all estranged. They essentially, they essentially hated my father. And so, no, I really, technically, I don't have any siblings, technically. I don't consider them family.
Well, I want to honor the fact that I don't know what it feels like to be in this situation. And I don't want to say anything. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say here or how it's going to come across. All I know is how your story sounds to me. It's an incredibly difficult story. You lost your father when he was at a really young age, and you feel like it was your fault. But my first point stays the same. Like, it wasn't your fault that your dad died of lung cancer. Lung cancer is serious. Your dad died of it. It's not your fault.
I feel like there's a million things I should have done different. I should have kept him in the hospital. I shouldn't have signed the DNR. Like, I know logically speaking, I know it's not, but it's so hard to deal with, Sometimes, some days are better than others. I'll put it that way.
Lung cancer is one of the hardest things to treat. Because it's not natural. It's like people develop lung cancer. Like, this is a very slippery slope I want to acknowledge. Like, I'm not here to judge your dad for the choices that he made. But your dad is not here anymore. And you are. And your dad left you everything. So much, it sounds like, that he trusted you. He believed in you more so than these other family members who are coming after you, whom you say you've never even met. These people are coming after you with lawyers. You're 23 years old. You don't know what to make of this. I understand that. Like, these people are old. You said some of these people are in their 40s and 50s, it sounds like, and they're coming after you with lawyers. That's got to be terrifying. But I'm here. We're breaking these things. I'm trying to take these points one at a time, because this is like, what you're in is very dense. The first point is, you are not responsible for your dad's death. Can you accept that?
I don't think I ever will. I know, like, some days, it's weird because some days I can accept it. Some days I can say, like, everything was for the best. Like, some days I tell myself, if he wouldn't have died, I would have never got taken away, and I would have never met my husband. And I would go through hell every single day. I'd go through all of this all again in a heartbeat to meet my husband. I wouldn't take anything for him. But some days I just have the other thoughts of it is my fault,
How is it your fault? Let's take it one point at a time. Give me 3 points on why it's your fault. Let's talk about those. We're still on the first point, but let's break it down into 3. Why do you think it was your fault your dad died?
I should have done CPR or called 911 to have him resuscitated. I shouldn't have signed the DNR, and I should have not let him go into a hospice the day before he died. I should have kept him in the hospital where he was safer. And I
Okay,
think
so here,
the third
go ahead.
point is probably, I think the third point is my dreams. I know that dreams aren't realistic, but God, sometimes my dreams feel so real. Like I had this one dream right after he died that he was in the coffin and he was crashing to get out, and I couldn't help him because I was a million miles away. And every Christmas I think about how he's cold. Sometimes my dreams just make me think it's my fault, I guess.
Well, our dreams represent what we're experiencing. And your dad was really far away when he died. He was, from the sound of it, he was too far gone. If I'm wrong about anything, I want you to challenge me on it. I don't know you. I'm talking to you here we've been talking 18 minutes. If I'm wrong about something, correct me. I'm not looking to be right here. I'm trying to to console you. You're 23 years old. A 23-year-old should not have to go through this. You're going through a very confusing time. But listen, I want you to listen to me. You're going to be okay. This experience is going to make you so incredibly strong. This is why I think this is what your dad saw in you, is my guess. I don't know your dad. I don't know you. But I've got a few years on you, and I have some kids, and I can appreciate that the fact that your dad left you with everything and not other family members who are in their 40s and 50s. That says a lot. It says a lot. Notwithstanding the fact that you graduated valedictorian in your class, like all of these things, like your dad didn't only love you, your dad trusted you more so than anybody in your family. It sounds like your dad had more faith in your future. It sounds like than any other person in his own family. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. I think I searched for so long for a reason, like why they would do this to me, because like I could never sleep with myself at night if I was them, and I think it comes down to like what you were saying. He left everything to me, and they were jealous. Like we had a bond that they never had because he was always in the military and he had me after he retired. And he left me everything, and I think they were mad about that. And maybe that's why they took everything they felt they had a right to. But they all had their own homes and their own kids, and they were all so much older. I was just a kid. Like, he wanted to give me a start. Like, he wanted to give me a house that was paid off, and now I'm in debt with the house that I just bought. Like, I'm not knocking it. Like, thank God I have a house, but, I should have had 2 houses that were paid off. He tried to set me up for success, and everything just got stolen.
Your dad doesn't know the future. Your dad is a human being just like you are. And one day, maybe you will have kids. Do you have kids now?
No, I've lost 4.
You've had 4 miscarriages, or you've lost 4 children.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have PCOS. My mom, she was never in my life. I didn't meet her until after I was already an adult. But when I found her, I found out she had stage 4 ovarian cancer. So I'm predisposed to that, and I have severe PCOS. Like, I bled for 4 months straight recently, and I just have horrible issues with it. I stopped taking birth control because the only time I got pregnant was on birth control because it regulated my hormones.
So you've had 4 miscarriages. I'm just trying to understand. I'm sorry, I don't understand yet.
Yes.
Miscarriages are so you you have dealt with so much loss for your age. You have lost your father in a traumatic way where family is coming after you, and you've had miscarriages. A lot of people don't understand how difficult miscarriages are. I've gone through miscarriages. Of course, I don't have a uterus, so I haven't like physically gone through it, but I've been the father of of at least 3 miscarriages. So and a lot of people don't understand what that feels like, what kind of loss that is. A lot of people don't understand, but I can empathize with that. That is a very difficult thing to go through, a miscarriage. And I'm really sorry to hear that you've been dealing with that on top of this at your age. This is you
I
know,
don't want you to feel bad for me because I know people have it worse than me.
I don't want to. I'm not here to feel bad for you. I'm here to. I want to. Can I go on a tangent? I want to inspire you. Can I go on a tangent? A 30-second tangent about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker is a fictional character, of course, but why is Luke Skywalker the protagonist of Star Wars? Why is the Force strong with Luke Skywalker? Now, he's a fictional character, but he's written around archetypes that are very real in the real world, and this is what has made Star Wars one of the longest-lasting, most profitable franchises on the entire planet, is because they got this part right. Luke Skywalker suffered tremendously for his age. Lost everything. Lost his parents. Was separated from his twin sister. Spoilers. These are spoilers. I'm really sorry, guys. If you're 40 years late to Star Wars, these are spoilers. These are spoilers. You should be up on these. These aren't spoilers anymore. These are 40-year-old spoilers. But the point is, like, Luke Skywalker, the Force is strong with him because he withstood so much entropy. He withstood so much resistance, and he still kept his wits about him. That's what stories are about. I'm just using one example. You can find thousands of examples just as good as Star Wars, but I'm singling in on that one because I'm admittedly rewatching Star Wars for the 400th time with my kids. I'm introducing them to Star Wars this month, and they're loving it. But it's an incredible story. Like, Luke Skywalker lost everything, and he kept his wits about him and mastered the force of life. And I'm acknowledging in bringing that up, it's not just a fun point. It's to say that you, as a 23-year-old, have endured a lot of entropy. You lost your father in a really unfortunate way. You've had family come after you for money. Your father left you, entrusted you with, willed you to have. And that's not fair and you've had some miscarriages, which is it's a lot of turmoil to experience at your age. But what I'm trying to tell you, I'm not trying to overwhelm you by encapsulating all you've been through in a single sentence, in a couple of sentences. I'm trying to say, like, look here at what you have done. I'm trying to say, look here at how strong you are. Look at what you have endured. I'm not here to say, look at what you have to endure. I'm saying, look at what you've already survived. This makes you incredibly strong and resilient. And so it's no surprise to me your father left you with everything he had. Your father seems... I've failed to acknowledge so many things in the chat, but, like, I'm not alone in saying this. Like, your dad clearly didn't want to be resuscitated. Your dad clearly seemed to understand that his body was breaking down and that he didn't have it in him anymore. It sounds like your dad really hurt his lungs. And it sounds like your dad really believed in you. And I believe in you. Having not talked to you for a whole half hour yet, I believe in you. Just hearing what you've endured and hearing what you're going through. Like, I'm like, holy crap, this is the next Luke Skywalker. This is the next Princess Leia. Like, you were amazing. Like, the fact that you've made it through all this. Like, I hear the pain in your voice. I hear that you're struggling with this. But I'm here telling you that, like, what you have endured at your age is incredible. Like, you can make it through this. Your dad entrusted you with everything he had. And it sounds like your dad wasn't a dull guy. It sounds like you're really upset about this. It sounds like your dad was a brilliant guy. Is that right?
He was the best dad in the world.
Right. And he trusted you. You know, we don't know what our parents go through. It sounds like your parents are split up. Am I understanding that? And
Yeah.
am I understanding that part of the story right? Your parents are split up?
Yeah, I guess that's another issue is that I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm everybody's mistake or second choice because my mom, I was just a ticket to the States for her. She left as soon as she had me.
You're clearly not a mistake. If you were the mistake, your dad would have left everything to one of his siblings or whoever's coming after you for all this money now. The people that think they were entitled to that money. If you were the mistake, they would have gotten it and they wouldn't be coming after you. They're coming after you because they're jealous. Your dad saw the future in you, not in them. That's why he left you everything he had. And the reason I bring up your parents' divorce is because that's a really complicated thing with kids. Super complicated. Like, I don't even know how to articulate how complicated it is. Like, you just have to be in the situation to understand or appreciate it. It is super complicated. It sounds like your dad had a lot of respect for the situation and didn't divulge too much information. It sounds like he just left you everything, which is beautiful.
Yeah, my dad would always say, like, I'm never going to talk bad about your mom.
There you go. Your dad's amazing. Your dad was amazing. That's
even
amazing.
though God, after meeting her, I'm like, oh, why did you hold your tongue? Why didn't you warn me? But
it's complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't ever really one to want me to have that view, I guess. I guess he wanted me to give the relationship an honest chance. But I feel like I moved on from that relationship fairly quickly because, I mean, I never knew her. I mean, I don't have any memories from her. I mean, of course, it was so hard growing up without a mom, you know, like the kids at school were cool, you know, saying like, oh, no wonder your mom left because you're so ugly and stuff like that on Mother's Day. And when the class had to make Mother's Day cards and I was making one for my dad and they'd make fun of me because of that. So that's just kid stuff. I didn't really go through like how other people knew both of their parents when they got a divorce, you know.
Your dad, my guts, I didn't know your dad. My gut says your dad didn't want to trash talk your mom because your dad had the wisdom to understand that you are half your mom.
I will say one good thing about her, even though she left me and 3 other children. I will say one thing about her is she has some children that she has stayed for. I think she kind of grew up in her older years, and I'm at least thankful for that. And I'm glad for the opportunity to get to know those siblings that I have. And
your dad sounds
that's
like
why I don't understand. That's why I don't.
I'm sorry.
That's
why you don't understand what? Sorry. Sorry, I'm stepping on you. I'm not trying to. Go ahead.
Sorry. I guess that's why I can't wrap my mind around it. Is like I'm not jealous of the 3 that my mother had that she stayed for. I'm not jealous of that. Like I love my little sisters. So like, how could someone be so cruel if they're blood related to someone like the ones that are, you know, that took everything from me? How can someone be that cruel? I can't wrap my mind around it.
How could your mom be so cruel? Is that the question?
No, the family members that came after me.
Who are they related to?
Me. The family members that came after me, the ones that took the money and everything.
Dad's side or mom's side?
Dad's side. I didn't know mom's side until afterwards.
There you go. They had they were older and had blood relation to your dad. It sounds like your dad left enough money to you that they knew how much roughly they left. He left you. And it sounds like they thought that since they were older and still alive, they were entitled to that. But your dad disagreed. That's my whole entire point to you, is that your dad didn't give it to these people.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to do is like rationalize, like make a comparison, like me with my younger siblings that are on my mom's side. I'm not jealous that my mom stayed for them. I'm not jealous that my mom chose to take care of them. But with the family members on my dad's side, why are they jealous? Like, how could you be jealous? How could you be mean to somebody that's your family? Like, I don't get it.
Well, your family was very divided, it sounds like. It sounds like your family was very divided by the divorce, maybe, would be my guess. And it sounds like
they were not. Sorry, they were not. They didn't know my mom. They had a different mom.
There you go. Yeah, that's why they're coming after this money. They think it's theirs. And your dad thought it was yours. Your dad didn't leave it to them. He left you everything. And you were the one there holding him when he died. And you were the one he asked. He didn't ask he could have asked his brothers or sisters to sign that document you signed. He could have asked them. They were old enough. He asked you.
Yeah,
he thought you. I understand that's traumatic for you, but I'm asking if you can if you can appreciate where your dad was in that mindset. Maybe you can't. But I'm saying, like, can you picture the fact that the beauty in the fact that your dad. This is heavy stuff, so I'm trying to be very delicate because I don't want to traumatize you in recapping these things. But like the fact that your dad was
I get what you're saying. Like like the bond.
He wasn't well at the age that he was. He should have been well, but he realized that he hadn't taken care of his body, and that he had a finite amount of time. And he realized he had the wisdom, I would say, to realize that the best beneficiary of his estate was in you and not his brothers and sisters. That's a incredible endorsement for your character, is what I would say. That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, I guess. I guess my question is like, the court case is already over, just for reference, because I'm not going to take them back to court for them breaching their agreement to not divulge details. It's just not worth it. But it's been over for about a year now. I guess what my question is like, I also put in the order that I didn't want them to be able to come near me, my husband, or my kids, and I didn't want their kids to be able to come near me, my husband, or any future kids that we have. And so I guess what I'm asking is like, do you think it's okay? Do you think it's possible? Because I feel like in my heart that I've forgiven them, but do you think it's possible to forgive someone but distance themselves? Because I guess where I'm getting that from is in the Bible it says not to associate with vexations to the spirit, and that's all they are to me when I'm around them. So like I can forgive them and pray for them from a distance, but do you think it's okay to not want them in my life but still forgive them?
Absolutely.
Because I question that sometimes, because I get a lot of hate from other members that chime in about that. They're like, "Oh, you need to forgive." Like I have forgiven. I wish them the best. I hope they find a relationship with God. I hope they get their life in order. I hope they become better people, but I don't want them to do it around me.
Yeah. Chat, if you have any thoughts on this, I realize I've only mentioned like one or two things from the chat in this entire stream. We've had some stories that have sucked me in, admittedly, but I want to mention to you, the caller, that the chats here are a resource for you. So tomorrow, when the chat is public with the replay, I encourage you to go revisit the chat. We can't all be right, but you will be. I trust that you have the wherewithal to pick and to cherry pick what's applicable and not applicable to your situation. There's so many good thoughts for you in here. And I want to say to you that, like, I'm also simultaneously prompting the chat, like, if you have experience with this, like forgiving someone at an arm's length, like the caller is talking about, this is a great time to put that in. But like, I'm totally agreeing with you, caller. Like, I think that's biblical for a reason, because it makes sense, because it's the best thing to do. I agree with that. I actually agree with the Bible on that point. I think you have the right frame of mind. Like, I totally agree. You can totally forgive someone and also acknowledge that they have their own work to do. And it's not a judgment to say that. It's not that you judge them. It's simply to protect yourself. You have to protect your own energy. That's what this whole conversation has been about. Nothing's changed. Let me take this opportunity to say, nothing has changed here. Has it? Nothing's changed here. We haven't taken ailments from anybody or revived anybody from the grave or something like that. Like, nothing's changed. Like, we're just talking about, like, how do you approach these very difficult things in life? That's what we're talking about, right? So, like, what that is, how you approach things in life is how you protect your own energy. That is to say, everyone has their own finite amount of energy. Everyone has a finite amount of energy. Nobody has infinite energy. So what does that mean? We have to protect our energy. We have to choose. This is why we choose who our friends are. This is why the saying goes, you can choose your friends, but not your family. You can't choose your family. Now your family's coming after you for this inheritance that you were bestowed with. So, the point is that you have a finite amount of energy that you have to protect. You have to protect that. That is your responsibility, to decide how you spend your energy each day. You have to decide how many mental calories you're going to burn worrying about your family, how many mental calories you're going to devote towards your work, which is how you provide for yourself and your own family, how many calories you devote towards exercise, how many calories you devote towards seeking out more calories you can ingest, more food. Like, these are all things, like, we eat food, we get calories, we decide how we burn those calories. And so deciding that you're going to keep someone at an arm's length is not a judgment. It's just an acknowledgement that you cannot burn enough calories to sustain a certain relationship. It's not a judgment.
Yeah, that makes me feel better. I just wanted like a third person view, because like, the family members, some of them are like, oh, well, you need to, have a relationship with them. And then my husband is, I love my husband. I love my husband so much, but he is way more vindictive than me. He wants a bunch of ways, to be honest. So I feel like I'm kind of in the middle of both of those opposing views. I'm trying to forgive, but at a distance. So it's good to hear that that's okay to do, because I felt like it was okay to do.
Easy cheesy, one of our mods says to you, forgiveness is not letting people take advantage of you over and over.
Yeah. I felt like I really struggled with that, especially when I was 17, when all this happened, like 17, when I was younger. It was really hard for me because, like, I had never even been
17 when this started?
Yeah, I had never even been sent to the principal's office. Like, I was so scared of authority, essentially. Like, basically like not super scared, but you know what I mean, like respecting it. Like I wanted to be seen as respectful to where I just took everything that they did to me. And there was abuse in the home as well when they took me. It was really bad. The only thing that ever stocked their fridge was beer. So that's how me and my husband got close, is because his dad took me in, and he would feed me and stuff. I'd spend more time at my husband's house than I did at mine. There was other abuse too that I've only admitted to my husband that I was really scared to admit. But I feel like since I'm venting, I just need to tell somebody. I've gotten really good at, like, when I change my clothes, to like keep my old clothes on top of what I'm changing into, and kind of like shimmy the old ones off so that like I don't expose anything. And people have like my friends comment on it ever since I moved back. They've noticed that. They've commented. They've been like, "Wow, you can do that in a car. Like, how do you do that? Like, you can do that in a ball gown." Like, and
Right.
what they don't know is I did that because when I lived there, they wouldn't allow locks on the doors. The only lock on the door was their bedroom door. And so when I would change in the room, I'd be standing in front of the mirror, and one day I noticed the door was cracked open and there was someone standing there. I'm not going to accuse the specific family member because there were other members in the house that also could have done this. So I'm not accusing anyone specific because I don't know who it was, but I know that someone was standing at the door watching me. And so ever since then, I would change to where I wouldn't show anything.
I see.
And that sometimes is hard for me. Like, I know I'm going to get comments on it on Tuesday because I have to go to a wedding and we're all going to be changing in the same room. I got comments on it on my wedding day too. We saved up for a bigger wedding, and I got comments on it then too. And sometimes, like, I just laugh it off, but I don't want to tell anybody, the reason why I do that.
People's comments are just people's comments. It's no reflection on you. It's a reflection of their mental state at the time.
Yeah, it's more of like a jest thing. They're not like commenting like anything bad. Like, that's why I just laugh about it, because I guess that they don't know the story. And
You're super woke, super wise for your this is why I'm calling you Luke Skywalker, because you are way more woke and wise than anybody is at your age. So I'm just acknowledging that you. I'm trying to acknowledge what I hear in your story, like, and I'm hearing your voice, and you're telling me you're 23 years old, and I'm having a hard time believing it because you just sound like you're so much older than that based on what you're saying. And I hope that gives you some emotional energy to plow into tomorrow. I want to leave you with a book. Will you read a book that might? I have a book that I'm not sure how it's going to sit with you. You've mentioned that you are devoutly religious, and this book is not a religious book, but it's a very short book, and it is a book that is. Are you familiar with the book called The Four Agreements? Have you heard of this book?
No, I will say, like, I know I'm religious, but I'm very open-minded. Like, as long as it's not like sitting there bashing my religion, like, I'm okay with it. I'm accepting of everybody.
The only reason I mention it is because you mentioned you were devoutly religious, and I respect that. And the introduction to this book goes into some I can't remember if it's Mayan or Aztec mythology from like a long time ago. It's like it's only the introduction, but this is a 120 something page book. It's called The Four Agreements. I've read it 4 times. I read 4 or 5 times maybe. I read this book every few years because it's meant so much to me. This is an incredible book. It's 4 agreements you make with yourself. In fact, I'm so nervous you're going to rule this book out because of what I just said about Mayan mythology or Aztec mythology. I'm going to give you a small spoiler on. What's that?
Sorry, you're gonna laugh, but I'm mostly Mayan. Actually, I was born in Honduras.
Oh, okay. So it'll be right up your alley. So the 4 agreements are, I'll give you a small spoiler. These are just the chapter headings. These aren't even, it's not even a spoiler. Promise me you'll still consider reading the book, even if I give you the chapter headings.
Oh, definitely. I'm super into mythology. Like, I'm really open-minded.
Okay.
Like I said.
Okay, great. So the first chapter is called Be Impeccable with Your Word, meaning no lies, only what you know to be true. That's chapter 1. These are 4 agreements you make with yourself for a more fulfilling, more free life. Number 1, be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take anything personally. I think that's a big one for you. That's my gut. I think number 2 is a big one for you. Don't take anything personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. I think number 3 is maybe big for you too. I'm not saying you're assuming a lot, but I am saying that like your family's coming after you for a lot, and it's easy to make assumptions about that situation when people are hiring lawyers against you. So again, like number 2 and number 3 in tandem, like it's not personal that they're hiring these lawyers. It's just like what people hire lawyers based on what they think they can get away with. That's what a lawyer is for. A lawyer is for what you think you can get away with. That's what a lawyer is. And there are also like let me clarify that. That's what a litigator is. That's what a prosecutor is. There are many different kinds of lawyers for different types. Like there are criminal defense lawyers. There are, it's a very. I'm not trying to make generalizations here. I'm not trying to say like law is bad. Like we need law, of course. But the point is like there are plenty of lawyers, maybe more so than not. In the same way that there are more bad therapists out there than good ones. There are more bad litigators and prosecutors out there than there are ones who will be ethical and fair with what cases they take on. Because a lot of this stuff just comes down to capitalism and what people can get away with. And it's not fair. So again, like number 2 and number 3, those chapters I think might be big for your situation. And then chapter 4, always do your best. So chapter 1, be impeccable with your word. Chapter 2, don't take anything personally. Chapter 3, don't make assumptions. Chapter 4, always do your best. I read this book every couple years just as a reminder to myself that it doesn't matter what the world's going to do because the world's going to be stupid. It's okay. That's what I think.
Yeah. I will say I was the one that actually hired the lawyer first just to get the student loan out of my name. I didn't want the money back that they stole. I just wanted the loan out of my name and wanted them to, pay for my lawyer fees because I shouldn't have been having to hire a lawyer because they shouldn't have committed fraud.
Right.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, because I did have some feelings about their lawyer because like I was like, how could you represent them and like not taking things personally? I feel like I do take things personally, like you said. I know I do sometimes. And I know it's for them, it's just like a business transaction, so I don't blame their lawyer.
That's so amazing of you. I want you to really take that in. And we're getting close here to the end of the stream, so we do need to wind down the call. We have some other calls coming in. I'm going to try to get to one more before the end of the stream, but I want to invite you to call. Can we set some kind of goal for a date for you to call back? Like, will you call back in like 3 weeks or something, 2 or 3 weeks as things develop and give us some kind of update? I'll even, if you're like, I so much want an update from you that I will add you to my phone book with some kind of nickname I can remember you by if you're okay with it. Because I want to, I would like to hear from you again, and I don't know how else to recognize your call when it comes in. So if we can set some kind of goal for you to get to like 3 weeks from now, to take some time to read this book, take some time to do some personal work, and I want to hear how your frame of mind is in a few weeks, if that's all right.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Do you need my email, or do I need to get
no personal information. Let me see if I can come up with a nickname for you. I'm gonna call you. What am I gonna call you? What should I call you? No personal information. If you have an idea for a nickname, I'm all ears. Chat, if you have an idea for a nickname. Oh, Luke Skywalker. Easy Cheesy said that you are Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
Thank you, Luke, for that. A fellow Luke. Of course you're Luke Skywalker. I said it. Thank you, Luke, for the reminder. Yeah, leave it to Luke to remember. You're Luke. Okay, great. You are Luke Skywalker. When I see Luke Skywalker coming in, you better believe I'm picking up.
Okay.
Luke Skywalker. I'm
I
going to
know
talk to
we
you in a
gotta-
few weeks. Should I call you Princess Leia? Would that make you feel better? Queen
Yes,
Amidala? What do you want?
I love being the princess. I'm always love being the princess.
I already saved you as Luke Skywalker, but I'll change you to Princess Leia. Hang on, because she's Luke's twin sister. They're twin sister. They're twins. Let's see here. How do I change your? I actually don't know how to change your contact card, so you might be stuck as Luke Skywalker now in this system. I apologize. I'm sorry. You're Luke Skywalker. I can't change it.
But I know you got to get to other calls, but I want to thank you so much because this means a lot coming from you, you know?
You are so strong. Please don't give up hope. Your dad left you everything. He didn't give it to the brothers and sisters who are coming after you for this stuff. He left it to you. You are amazing. You graduated valedictorian. Like, your dad saw so much potential in you, and he left everything to you. And I maybe that feels like a big burden, but I'm asking you if maybe it's possible in the next few weeks that you can begin to see that as an acknowledgement of what is actually there. Like, you're incredible. From what the story you've shared, the amount of resistance you've experienced, that you've endured, you're incredible. And your dad knew that, is my guess.
Yeah, I think as you say this, I think I'm realizing I have an issue with taking compliments. So thank you.
Your dad knew that. He knew it. I know he knew it. Otherwise, he would have left. He wouldn't have left his entire estate to you. I know it was tumultuous. It sounds like it was tumultuous. There was a lot of ups and downs in that process, but he left everything to you. He didn't, and now his brothers and sisters are coming after you for it. That's why you're Luke Skywalker. You're Luke Skywalker. In fact, I'm going to applaud you for the work you've already done, because you've done so much work already that has gone unacknowledged. You've endured so much, and you are. I don't even want. Like, I know we're going to hear a good update from you. I know we're going to. I believe it. I believe we're going to. So you call whenever you're ready. I've got you saved in my phone book as Luke Skywalker. So when Luke Skywalker comes in, I'm going to get to it as quickly as I can.
Thank you so much, and seriously, thank you. Bless you. This means a lot.
You shared a lot of real
guess
stuff tonight. Thank you for being real and for sharing the way you did. That must have been difficult. Go get some rest. Go take it easy tonight and be good to yourself. Be good to yourself. You deserve it.
Thank you. You have a great night.
You too. Good night.
Bye.
All right, chat. I am going to take one more call tonight because I'm feeling frisky. I know we're 8 minutes towards closing the stream, but I'm going to go a little bit late because we only got to 2 calls, and I don't have a hard deadline tonight, so I'm going to take one more call. But I am going to run to the restroom real quick. This is my second bathroom break in a row, but it's also my second stream going way over in a row. And I used to do intermissions when I went past 2 hours. So now you guys know the capacity of my bladder. I'll be right back, and then we'll go a little bit late. Mods, if you need to go sooner than later, there's no pressure. You can go whenever you need to go. But I'll be here till probably 20 minutes after is my guess. We'll take one more call. It probably won't be a full 30-minute call, but we'll go a little bit later. I'll be right back. I suppose I should have said, now you know the capacity of my bladder when I'm drinking carbonated lemon lime water constantly. An endless supply of this, and not quite so endless, but I never finish this. This is like always full, and I never quite finish it. And I'm just sipping on it constantly, so. All right. We're going to go a little bit later tonight. We've only gotten to 2 calls tonight. I like to try to get to 2 or 3. And like I said, I don't have a super hard out tonight. I do have to get my kids to school in the morning, so I can't go too late, but I'll take one more call, and we'll probably go about 25 minutes. So whoever calls in next, and I've neglected a couple of calls who come in, but whoever calls in next, just know that it probably won't be a full 30-minute call, but it'll be roughly like 25 minutes or so. So here we go. Hello, thanks for calling.
Oh, hi, Julian. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. So
Can we start with your age and a brief intro?
Yeah, I'm 20, and currently I feel lost, lost as in I don't know how my future will look. So, yeah. I'm currently going to school, and I don't really know if what I'm doing is right. I mean, for starters, I grew up with a very traditional household who understood that grades meant everything. Having a social life is the way to be successful. And having basically wealth equals success, that kind of mindset drilled into me when I was a child. I struggled with socializing with people because I felt like an outcast. My parents were never really proud of me for my academics, my looks, who I made friends with, who I was in a romantic relationship with. So every time I came to my family, it almost felt like a gamble between if they'll be happy with it or I'll get yelled at and degraded. So I'm sorry for crying.
It's okay.
Currently in school. Currently in school. I don't.
What are you studying?
Sorry. I'm studying technology systems management, specializing in computer science.
Good. Good. Great major.
I transferred into my university with the plan on with pursuing computer science within the first year, because they had this program where if you don't complete it within the first year, you're never going to make it. And so I wasn't able to make it because of a relationship that I had, which took a lot on me. I basically focused more on the relationship rather than school, which kind of messed up my GPA. And so last semester when I tried to get in, I wasn't able to. I felt all this like built up rage and resentment, and the comments that my family made, all the degrading, all the non-faith that was there come up, and I can't help but feel like I'm just a failure. And with this, it brought up so many memories of people leaving me and not being able to be accepted by my friends, my partners, and my family. And in the end, I feel alone to the point where I feel like if I was permanently gone, it really wouldn't make a difference. I'm just really scared.
I hear you. But it's not true, is it? If you were gone, it wouldn't make a difference. It would make a difference, right?
Sometimes I can't tell because I've had comments from my parents where, as a kid, they did threaten to, like, permanently remove me, and they wouldn't care. I've had
Like,
friends tell me that.
What does that mean, permanently? Like, kick you out of the house or kick you out of the family? What does that mean, permanently remove?
Like, if they could, they would basically kick me out of the house or even go as far as to kill me.
Your parents wanted to kill you? You believed that? Or they gave you some reason to believe that?
They said that out of anger, but my relationship with them kind of felt good now, but I still feel so guilty because I can't make it. And I tried, and it just feels like I just wasted my entire life. They've said comments like that when I was younger, that I would never be anything, and if they could, they would remove me like that. But it was out of anger.
You've been through a lot, it sounds like. Yeah, let's acknowledge a couple things. You are growing up in a very strange time in the world, first and foremost. Let's acknowledge that first and foremost. You are growing up in a very strange time in the world. It's not to say it's a horrible time in the world. There are a lot of questions in the world right now. You're 20 years old. Like, can you... I'm not talking down to you. I'm just saying, like, you are 20 years old. You are freshly not a teenager. Do you hear what I'm saying in that? Like, you're an adult. I respect you. I'm not like saying you don't know what you're talking about or something. But I'm saying, like, you are, what I'm trying to tell you is you have your whole life in front of you. And I'm walking delicately here because I realize you might not want to hear that. You might not want to hear me say you have your whole life in front of you. But what I'm saying is you're growing up in a very strange time in the world.
Yeah.
You're growing up in a time where boomers raised kids our age, and I'm admittedly lumping you and I into the same generation, and I'm 15 years older than you from the same bit, but we were both raised by boomers or boomer adjacent individuals. So I hope you understand where I'm coming at this from. The point is, like, it's a strange time in the world. A lot of people who were our parents' ages are very much in the way of thinking that it sounds like your parents were, where they believed that one's sole value is what they are worth on paper.
Mhm.
And what I hear you saying is something beautiful. I hear you saying that there's more than life to what you're worth on paper. Now I'm trying to go really slowly here because there's a lot to your story. Let's acknowledge something else. You have, while walking a very difficult tightrope, also managed to land in an incredible major in your studies. You have chosen, in other words, you've chosen a very productive landscape for your future. You're studying computer science, computer systems management, I believe you said.
Mhm.
That's an incredible field to be in this time. So I have no doubt you're a very intelligent, very cognizant, very self-aware. You're a beautiful person. You are not only aware of how you come across, let me put it with more contrast. It sounds like your parents, I'm not sure if you're tracking with what I'm saying. I'll try to slow it down.
Mhm.
Your parents
Thank you.
what your parents neglected was the personal aspect of what you're talking about. It sounds like your parents didn't really value other people.
Um, not, I'm not sure. Because when I was a child, I was always compared to, especially my mother's coworkers. Their daughters were always like either going to bed on time, doing
Mm.
good in school, going to better high schools or colleges, skinnier, prettier. And sometimes when I think about it, I like hear the echoes in my head and I feel like I can't escape it. Like that never ending feeling like I'm just never ever gonna be enough. And with that like pit in my stomach, it lingers onto my friends. Cause I'll have these moments where it's like even the slightest adjustment in their tone or how they act makes me feel like I did something, which in the end results just me feeling like I'm just a failure, that I can't do anything right.
Did your parents treat you differently than your brothers? It sounds like you have brothers. Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I have a brother, yeah.
And he was treated differently than you?
He was smarter, he was better, he went into a profession that my mother and father accepted. And with me, when I told
He
my
wasn't better.
father
I'm going to
what
stop
I
you there. He wasn't better. I'm going to stop you there. He wasn't better. He might have chosen a path that was more acceptable to your parents. That doesn't make him better. I'm stopping you because I hear you're having a really hard time. I'm not arguing with you.
Mhm.
I'm taking your story one piece at a time in saying that. I hope you understand why I butted in there. Like I want you to understand, like your brother's not better than you.
It's hard to kind of believe that because like my brother's 13 years older than me, so whenever I go visit him, he has a wonderful house, and my mom and dad treat him like great. And with me, my dad feels like whenever he speaks to me, it's almost like he has no faith in me. My mom doesn't believe a word I'm saying in terms of school. I just feel completely alone.
I can make you a few promises. They might not sound like much, but I'm trying to start out. I'm trying to start out a baseline with you.
Mhm.
Number one, your parents love you. It would make a difference if you were gone. Your parents love you. They might not be very good at showing it. I'm a parent, and I'm a parent of 3, 2 girls and a boy. All 3 of my kids have done stupid things. They're kids, you know.
Mhm.
I can't help but love all of them, despite their I've had to stick up for them at school on occasion. Like the state is contacting me about things sometimes, and I'm like, okay, look, these are the kinds of things parents go through. In other words, So the point is, our kids do things we don't agree with as parents. It sounds like your parents are very old-fashioned. That's not
Yeah.
now. This part is not a promise, but it sounds like your parents are very old-fashioned. It sounds like maybe they give your older brother, who's 13 years older than you, more leeway than they give you. And I'm not saying that's good, but I'm saying maybe there's something that you can just accept that they're going to do as super old-fashioned people who have an older son that's 13 years older than you. They still love you. If you were to not be around, this is my promise. If you were to not be around, it would be the end of the world. I'm not saying that that's pressure on you, but I'm saying it would be a difference. You may not feel seen by your parents. You may feel invisible or inadequate or inferior. You may feel any of these ways. But I'm trying to establish a baseline with you, and I'm not done yet. I'm trying to inspire you. I hope nothing I'm saying is too heavy. I'm just trying to establish a baseline with you. Your parents love you. They might not be very good at showing it. That's my first promise. I promise you that. Your parents love you. I promise you that. I can guarantee you that. Your parents love you. They can't help it. That's what parents do. They love their kids.
It feels kind of strange how they show their love. I haven't even told my father.
I understand.
Oh, sorry. I haven't told my father that. Sorry.
What have you? I'm listening. What haven't you told your father?
I haven't told my father that I switched majors because I knew if I told him he would lose his mind. I would just feel like an outcast again. Because every weekend I come home. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please carry on. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, every time I visit home from school, it kind of feels like a gamble. Because if my mom is happy, then it's like a good weekend. But if it's a bad sign from her, I'll just get yelled at. I'll get degraded. It'll make me feel like I'm just not worth anything again.
Can I ask what you were studying before this that you're so worried about admitting to your dad?
Oh, I was studying computer science, but then transferred into technology systems management because I wasn't able to meet the requirements of that major, and my dad still thinks I'm doing computer science. I mean, they're both kind of similar. It's just if I told my dad, he would just lose his mind.
Now, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let me continue making you a couple promises, and then we'll get to the difficulty of what you're talking about.
Okay.
The other promise is your brother is not better than you. I can also promise you he's older than you by 13 years. So does he know some things you don't know? I would hope so. If he's 13 years older than you, I would hope so. But does that make him better than you? No, I promise you that. That's my second promise to you. He's not better than you just because he's older than you. In fact, like, there are many advantages to being younger. One of those is that you will live to see a later progression of planet Earth than he will by at least 13 years, or roughly 13 years. You know, you'll live to see a later stage of planet Earth than he will in some way, shape, or form, most likely, especially if he is a man, because men live less long than women. Statistically, these are generalizations, of course. But the point is, I'm trying to establish a baseline with you for some good news before we get to the difficulty of your parents, because I hear you pouring your heart out here. I hear you. You're in a really tough place. You're in a really dark place. You don't. You're lost. I hear that. But there is hope. There is a future for you. And it lies in the two promises I just made you. That number one, I guarantee you, I promise you, your parents love you. They might not be very good at showing it. And number two, your brother is not better than you, even if he's 13 years older than you. He might know some things that you don't know. But I would hope that's true. In the same way that if you had a brother or sister that was 13 years younger than you, I would hope you knew some things they didn't know. You know? But it doesn't make that person better than you. So, your dad sounds like sounds complicated.
Yeah. But the strange thing is, I'm not as close to my dad as I am with my mom. And I think the thing she said last week really put that, like, nail in the coffin, where where my mindset is right now really hit rock bottom. So it feels like I'm seeking approval not only for myself to determine whether or not I'm actually worthful, I'm also seeking approval from my family, especially my mother, and also the people around me. And I feel like I haven't even touched the bare minimum.
You know, you are, again, yeah, I'm sensing why your situation is so difficult. Your situation is dense. You know, you are, again, let's acknowledge some things. You're 20 years old. You're not 70 years old. You're 20 years old. So there are things, you are coming into your own right now. This is the time of life where you're determining what's important to you. This is a crucial part of life. This is I'm not even going to say, it's not, crucial is the wrong word. It's a monumental part of life. This is the part of life where you erect some monuments around what's important to you. This is the time of life where you decide what is important to you. Your parents can't make these decisions. Your older brother can't make these decisions. You have to decide what's best for you in the same way your older brother had to 13 years ago when he was exactly where you are. And yeah, maybe he didn't have anybody older to live in the shadow of. But your brother had to make those decisions for himself. Your dad had to make those decisions for himself. Your mom had to make those decisions for herself. And you are now coming into something that is a very real part of life where you are determining what's important to you. And you're an adult now. You get to decide those things.
Yeah.
And it's hard with parents. We don't always agree with our parents. A lot of people have a hard, a lot of people have a hard time seeing eye to eye with their parents in the way you're describing. What you're describing is not uncommon. It's manageable.
But
And
I
I
feel
would
like
say
I can't do that.
Go ahead.
I feel like I can't manage it because no matter how much I tell them, like, how scared I am, how lonely I feel, they say it's because, like, stupid things like, you're on your computer all day, you're not actually studying, like, you're wasting your time, and I just can't get anything from them.
Well, I'm gonna ask a fair question here. I don't keep in mind I don't know you. Like you're in a real you're being very vulnerable here, so I don't want to be insensitive. But I'm gonna ask a very real question because I don't know you. Are you wasting your time? I don't know what you're doing on the computer. There's plenty of wastes of time on the computer. Are you wasting your time? Do you feel you're wasting your time?
Sometimes, yeah.
What? Most of the time, or just some of the time?
Some of the time, like,
Okay, that's good.
sometimes I'll do my own research on, like, technology stuff and how to progress into my career. But then the moment, like, I get yelled at or just shut down by my parents, I feel like the motivation kind of goes away.
You have some kind of fear response. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you have some kind of fear response that shuts down your productivity or your belief in your sense of self or something like that. I don't know you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not judging you. I'm just I'm trying to have a conversation with you and in hopes that this is how I talk to any friend that calls me with stuff like this.
Mhm.
You know, you're here pouring your heart out. You're in tears. I can hear it. And I'm not here to judge you.
Mhm.
I'm on the verge of tears hearing your story. You know, I've been on the verge of tears this whole night, actually. Like every call tonight has just been so. There've been a lot of people are going through a lot right now. This is, like I said at the beginning of the call, this is a very weird time in the world. But I believe it'll get better. I believe it has to get better. It can't get worse. If it gets worse, we're going to lose civilization. And I believe civilization is too big to fail. We're not going to become hunter-gatherers, you know.
Yeah.
So there's hope for tomorrow. Parents are going to be stupid sometimes. We're not always going to agree with them.
Yeah.
And you're in a time of life where you are deciding what's important to you. And that's it's a privilege and it's a burden. Because you get the privilege finally after 18, 19 years of living under your parents' wing, you get the privilege of deciding what's best for you. And at the same time, that's a burden because our decisions have very real consequences in life. And that's the age of life that you're in.
Yeah.
And but I again, I'm going to come back to a couple promises. Your parents love you. I promise you that. They might not be very good at showing you in a way you understand. Because again, we're in a very weird time in the world where your parents were raised in a very different world. They might as well have been born on Venus. You know, like they speak English, but that's about it. Yeah. But they love you. They can't help but love you. They love you. Of course they love you. And that... Go ahead.
I want to see him just trying through them. I just want to be looked at like my brother. We look at him so proud.
Can I give you another picture that might be darker, but I like to think it's more hopeful?
Okay.
Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Does anybody know? Does anybody know what's going to be in the news tomorrow? Does anybody know what meteor might hit Earth tomorrow and wipe all of us out? Does anybody know what's going to happen tomorrow? Nobody knows. All anybody does is wake up tomorrow. That's all anybody does. They wake up tomorrow and they do it again. They put their best foot forward.
I just don't feel like me putting my best foot forward. I guess it's just like a self-image issue or acceptance, whatever you call it. I don't think anything I will do will ever be enough. It's just never been that way.
It sounds like you've been forced into a position where you are... It sounds like your family's very hierarchical.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it true. Are hierarchies true? Are hierarchies naturally intrinsic? In some senses, you can argue yes, because according to survival of the fittest, yeah, like some species are going to dominate others. But then again, you have ecosystems. What is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is a system of predators and prey, and predators are carnivores. And then you have, in the ecosystem, you have omnivores, and you have vegetarians, and this is an ecosystem. You're talking about what are you worth, and I'm saying, from the sound of it, you're worth a hell of a lot because you've endured a lot, and it sounds like you've navigated your situation to the best of your ability. It sounds like you met some restraints in school, and you have reservations about being fully transparent about that with your parents. And that's understandable. You don't need to feel shame around that. If your dad's going to react badly, you don't need to feel shame around that, is my opinion. I don't know you. I don't know the full situation. But from what I'm hearing, like, yeah, you don't need to feel shame around that. Like, this is your life. You're putting your best... You are waking up every day and putting your best foot forward. My argument to you would be, you would not have transferred to that different major if you didn't believe that. You're doing the best you can. It doesn't mean tomorrow there won't be a better opportunity. All you can do is the best thing you can do the next day. And it looks different for everybody, so you can't compare.
I guess what's really holding me down... Oh, sorry.
No, you don't be sorry. Go ahead.
I guess what's really holding me down was that action of the major switch. My advisors pretty much just told me either transfer out or switch to another major. And that to me was kind of like a slap to the face, as if I'm not good enough for that major or I'm not good enough to get into it. And since I'm technically a fourth year in my university, I'm stuck as a third year because I switched to that major. So all that time and money that my parents spent on me just ends up going to the waste, because it just, again, comes down to my mistake. Why didn't I try harder? Why couldn't I be better? And why couldn't I just basically just do it?
We meet all kinds of obstacles in life. The question you're asking is a good one, but there's no good answer to it. All you can do is the best you can do the next day. And the question is, are you doing the best you can do the next day? And that again is the burden. It's the privilege and the burden of where you are in life. You're 20 years old. You're coming into adulthood. You're already in adulthood, but this is where you are. You are learning to step out from under your parents' wing and take responsibility for your own life. And this is both a privilege and a burden, because you no longer have someone caring for you to tell you what to do, to order you around, to boss you around. And all you can do is put your best effort into every day. That's all you can do. And that looks different for every. It would do no good for you to compare your daily efforts to your brother, who is 13 years older than you, than it would be to compare your daily efforts to someone like Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos in terms of economic output. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, no matter where you look, there's going to be somebody doing something you're not. And even all three of those people I just mentioned that are at the top of their game, they all look to other people in different industries and wish they were doing something as well as someone else. There's always somebody doing something better. No matter how much money someone's making, there's always somebody doing something better. No matter if you're the best in your field, there's always somebody doing something that you're interested in that is better than you at that thing. So this is the quote, comparison is the thief of joy. I'm not sure if you've heard that quote, but I hear that you're lacking some joy. And I hear a lot of comparative sentiments in what you're sharing. And I would just encourage you not to compare yourself. And maybe you were taught to compare yourself. Maybe your parents measured you against your brother. That doesn't make that a good metric. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Just because your parents compared you to your brother doesn't make it a good metric. I could compare myself to Elon Musk. It wouldn't make it a good metric because I'm not so gung-ho on going to Mars as he is. He seems to believe we should go to Mars. I'm like, that seems pretty cool, but I'm not interested. Like, I'm not like going to devote my life to that. Like, go Elon Musk. I hope you solve that problem. That's cool. Like, I'm glad there's somebody out there who is interested in that problem. That's not the problem that interests me. So that's, these are topics like, we try not to get ideological here, but this is what you get into when you talk about comparative advantage. I don't know if you know that term. It's an economic term. It means somebody's going to grow bananas really well. Another person's going to grow apples really well. Another person's going to grow avocados really well. And these people can trade freely, and everybody just acknowledges like, hey, I do this really well. You do that really well. And we can trade. And you and every person living today has some comparative advantage. Even if there's 12 billion people on the planet, even if there's 4 billion more people on the planet than we have to this day, everybody has some comparative advantage. Everybody has something they can trade because the world is that specialized. That's the world we live in. That's the beauty of the world we live in. I don't know if everything I'm saying is landing, but the point is that the world is like, again, like you're growing up in a really interesting time. My heart goes out to people your age because this is a very crazy time. And yet it's also one of the most beautiful times because we live in a very specialized world. We live in a world where you don't have to be a farmer. A couple hundred years ago, you had to be a farmer. There weren't options like computer science or technology systems management or, you know, yeah, you pretty much were a farmer or a social worker, or you worked for the government, or a lawyer. There's a, it's an oversimplification, but you get the point. Like we're so specialized now. That's what's so overwhelming about being your age is that there's so many options. But the path you've chosen is the best you could. Is the best you are. It sounds like you're waking up and putting your best foot forward every day, and you'll get better at putting your best foot forward. You may not be perfect at it yet. That's okay. You're 20 years old. I would say stop comparing yourself to your older brother. Forget your older brother. That's what I'd say to you. Forget your older brother. Focus on what interests you. It sounds like you have chosen a really good field, despite what your major is. Forget the resistance you've come up against with your parents, with your teachers. You're clearly interested in technology. Technology is an amazing field to study. Even if management, even in technology systems management, it's an incredible field. There's no shame in that. Your dad may have a different opinion, but he's just flat out wrong. You just if you apply yourself to something and you keep trying, you get better at it. You work your way up. You prove your worth in the. I'll make you another promise. I'll make you a third promise. I made you 2 promises earlier. Here's my promise number 3. If there's one thing parents are for, it is for underestimating your potential for economic output. That's a third promise. I think my opinion is parents do this out of love. They do it because they want to spur you into better success. They want to scare you. They want to bring a scarcity mindset to. I'm not saying it's right, but I think a lot of parents do this. I think a lot of parents. I personally, just to be very clear, I personally do not have this philosophy with my kids. I am like, my kids are at the top of their class. They're very young, so it's not saying much. My kids are doing very well, and I just like, my kids are awesome. Like I lose fights to my kids all the time. Like my kids are. I have 3 kids under the age of 9, and I'm often wrong in debates. Like, I just eat shit all the time, But the point is, it's not my personal philosophy, but a lot of parents have that philosophy that like you have to scare your kids into success, and I don't think I'm not personally for it, but a lot of kids are raised that way, and also a lot of kids find their way in life having parents that way. So it's not the end of the world, like in my view. It may feel like the end of the world. It may feel like it. And I hear that you are struggling with regaining that sense of passion and motivation. But I wonder if there's some glimpse of promise that you can find in yourself if you forget your brother. Just forget your brother and everything he means to you. I'm not saying you have to like not talk to him anymore. I'm just saying like meditate for a second with me. If you can close your eyes and just meditate. I'm going to close my eyes. You just like meditate with me for a second. You're in the world. It's you. Your parents don't exist. Your brother doesn't exist. What do you do tomorrow that's within your reach? That's the question. And it sounds like you're doing that. The difficulty is your parents might not accept it if they knew the truth. But that's okay. You don't have to tell them.
You say that, like, I have my whole life in front of me. The years that I've been compared to and just trying to throw it around. It's hard to kind of wrap my head around the idea that I do have my life ahead of me. I feel like last week, even when I was sitting in my dorm, I felt like I was running out of time because I wasn't going to graduate successfully in 4 years. I felt myself getting into this like darkness that, yeah, it's just basically over.
I understand. I completely understand the dread you're talking about. I've been there myself. I completely understand the dread you're talking about. I completely understand. I don't understand what it's like to be you. I don't understand your life. I don't understand your parents. I'm not pretending to understand your brother or any of this stuff. But we're talking again about I'm gonna get real granular with you. I'm gonna go to a place I don't often go here on these streams. I kind of touched on this earlier, but I'll get more specific. You're the youngest. Your parents seem to think that is some kind of disadvantage. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
In fact, you are the most advanced copy of your lineage because you're the youngest. That means you're the latest and greatest. That means you have more immunity. That means you have like all of the neural connections. You have more of the there's more like your parents were alive longer before they conceived you, and so more went into you than went into your brother. The only thing your brother has on you is 13 years. That means nothing. Let's get real granular. 4,000 years ago, nobody on the planet could digest milk. How did we start digesting milk? Well, people domesticated cows and thought milk was tasty, and most people were lactose intolerant, and people didn't care. They were just like, we're just going to keep drinking milk. And eventually, people developed the ability to digest milk. What does that mean? That means through withstanding resistance, we become stronger. With each generation, there is a microevolution towards resilience and strength. So by you being 13 years younger than your brother, I mean, we're splitting hairs here, but I'm getting real, like I said, I'm getting real granular. Like, it doesn't make you better than your brother. I'm not saying it makes you better than your brother no more than he's better than you, but you certainly have some kind of microevolutions that your brother doesn't have. You're the latest and greatest. You're going to inherit the world when he's not here. That is to say, the world is yours, not his. His time was up when you were born. If you want to get real granular, like, you're the latest and greatest. So the question is, what are you going to do? Forget your brother. Forget what your parents taught you about what matters in terms of the value of a human. I'm trying to be really careful here because I don't want it to feel like I'm putting a bunch of weight on your shoulders. I fully recognize that this might feel like a lot of weight I'm putting on you, but that's not the goal here. I'm not trying to put more weight on your shoulders. I'm trying to say something very different. I'm trying to give you a perspective that's much freer. I'm trying to give you a perspective on this that you have something your brother can never have. You have a perspective on his life and your parents' life that nobody else has as the youngest in your generation. You are the culmination of your bloodline. You are the latest and greatest model. And that comes with a lot of weight because you're looking up constantly. You're looking up at all the people older than you and what they're doing. I realize that. But it's not true. It's not true that they're better than you. It's not true that they can do things you can't. You know, I have two daughters. One is about to turn 9 and one's about to turn 7. And my 7-year-old is always looking at the 9-year-old and saying like, "Oh, she's doing XYZ and I can't do those things yet." I'm like, "Look, you're 2 years younger. It's okay. Like, give it 2 years. You'll be doing probably better than she is because like you'll be watching her for 2 years learning and then you'll do it better than she will inevitably." I'm not saying like that this places any kind of hierarchy on who is born when, but the point is like somebody being older than you doesn't mean shit. And I'm trying to communicate what I see here that's beautiful. I don't know if it's coming across. I'm trying very hard to not come across as weighty or heavy because like what I'm seeing is not heavy at all, but I recognize that it might seem heavy to you. So how is what I'm saying coming? Like, how are you feeling when I'm saying these things? What's going through your head?
It's definitely a lot to take in because I've never really thought of it like that. I've always thought of it as like, again, it comes down to comparison. Like, I see other people, not to say this negatively, but I am Asian, so seeing other Asian kids at school, like, kind of be 5 steps ahead, I feel like I'm 15 steps behind. So hearing this definitely feels like, it makes me feel like I'm not so far behind, just only a little bit. So thank you.
You are, it's better than that. It's better than that. You're not far behind. You're 13 years ahead of your brother. I realize it might be a lot to take in. That's why I'm trying to not blow a fire hose at you. I realize a lot of what I'm saying might come across as heavy, and I'm trying to be really careful because I don't want to weigh you down with too much to think about. There is so much stuff in the chat for you. Like this, there's more so than a lot of callers in your call in particular in the chat that I've not gotten to because I've just been listening. I'm trying to listen very carefully because there's a lot to your story. But there is so much in the chat. I hope you will revisit the chat tomorrow when it's up with the video replay. Because there's a lot of good food for thought for you in there. And we can't all be right because we're all just sharing our own opinions. And I'm not an expert in anything. I hope you understand that. You're 20 years old. I don't want you to think that I can't fix your problems. I can't heal your situation. I'm just a guy who has been through a lot in my life and has had to solve a lot of problems that there were no answers for myself. Just like literally what you're talking about. Just wake up every day, even though it sucks, and just be like, hey, you know what? Here we are. Let's do it. You know, and that's a really shitty place to be in. I'm sorry for all the expletives. You've been very polite here. You haven't dropped one as far as I know, and I'm just sitting here like saying shit over and over again. I'm sorry if I'm offending you. But my point is,
okay.
my point is like you are. You are not behind. That's my point. You are not behind. In fact, if anything, you're ahead because you were born with perspective on all of this. And my guess, my bet, actually it's more than a guess, it's a bet. I would bet money right now. If there were a handshake deal right now, if somebody were in front of me, I would bet $500, maybe more. I'm not the gambling type. I'm no fun to go to Vegas with because I don't really spend much. I'll play a couple slot machines, you know. But like I don't go crazy. But the point is like I would bet money right now that in 13 years you will think back to this season of your life and you will say, I'm so glad I stopped comparing myself and just kept thinking about what was the next best step for me. That's all you can do every day. What's the next best step forward? That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to
Thank
that. I don't know your life. But the next best step is certainly not giving up. Why?
you.
Can we recap why? Because I'm reluctant. I'm reluctant to hang up without recapping why.
My parents love me.
That's right. That's good. Yeah, that's the first reason why. Why else?
That I am better than my brother.
What was that one?
I'm sorry. I am better than my brother.
Yeah, there's no comparison. It's not a matter of who's better or worse. That's the point. Like, forget the comparison. Forget the comparison. Because you have, the second reason is because you have your own comparative advantage. Now it's a slippery slope, a comparative advantage. How do you have a comparative advantage without comparing yourself to someone? How do you have a leg up on someone without saying you're better? That's a slippery slope. So it's not a matter of who's better, but you certainly have some comparative advantage over your brother. And your brother has a comparative advantage over you, sure. But it's certainly not that he's 13 years older. That's not a comparative advantage. Comparative advantage is the way you think. So yeah, your brother might be better at solving certain problems than you're going to be. But you're going to be better at solving certain problems than your brother's going to be. And you are the culmination of your lineage that is living right now. You're the latest, greatest model. It doesn't mean you have to... I didn't mention that to make you like say you're better than your brother. I'm giving you that as a beacon of hope that like just because you're the youngest, it doesn't mean like you're the worst. If anything, it means like you're the latest, greatest model. Like, there's no sense in comparing. But that's my point. Is like if you're gonna compare it, it doesn't make you the worst. So stop comparing is my point. Stop worrying about what your brother's doing. And it might be hard because your parents are beating that down your throat. But maybe there's some kind of emotional distance you might need from your parents. I'm not saying you stop talking to them. That's like a very extreme decision to make. It's not right for everybody, and it might not be right in your case. But like you might shield yourself somehow emotionally from the things your parents are feeding you about what's right and what's wrong and what your brother's doing and what you're doing. Like at a certain point, that doesn't mean anything anymore. So you might consider that.
I feel like that's kind of difficult because my mom likes to know what's going on. If, like, for instance, if I don't tell her how I feel, or like, for example, what I did at school, she will kind of get upset. She wants to know what's going on. I feel like it comes from just her wanting to be closer to me, but it also does kind of feel a little over the line, if that's appropriate to say.
Boundaries with parents are really difficult. I'm not here to tell you what's right and what's wrong with your parents. Only you will know that decision. I can. Do you have something you could take notes on? I'm not sure how to plug this in the chat. Do you have something I can give you a couple things to Google?
Okay, yeah. I could put it in my phone.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
You might Google medium chill versus no contact. That would be the actual Google query I would put in. No, medium chill versus no contact. Basically, what that's going to bring up is a bunch of articles on how to navigate very difficult relationships. And some people go completely no contact, meaning like, don't contact me about anything. This is a very extreme stance to take. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just saying, like, if your relationship with your parents is that bad, you might consider some kind of medium chill relationship where you establish some boundaries for yourself where you protect yourself from negative things that are coming from your parents, and you keep things like medium chill is basically a way to maintain contact without becoming emotionally vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be something like that. Like if your parents are berating you as a 20-year-old, there might be something to say about kind of, and there's no definition of what medium chill looks like. It's completely up to you, but there might be some kind of, you might need to put up some kind of boundary in place, where you don't even have to tell them the boundary exists. You can just start responding in different ways. You don't even have to tell them they can't do certain things anymore. You can just start choosing to respond in certain ways. When you hear something that's not helpful, you can deem it unhelpful and choose how you're going to respond in those situations, and just neutralize it as a way to protect yourself. That's medium chill.
Okay, thank you.
So you might do some reading on that. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. Please do your own research. I'm giving you a Google query for crying out loud. Please read about it. I'm not telling you what you should. I don't know what you should do. But I hear you're in a lot of pain, and I really my heart goes out to you. I don't know what it is you need. This is just a place where we're gonna have a conversation. I'm not an expert in any of this stuff, so please don't take any of this as like I'm not here to fix your problem. I'm just here to create a space for you to talk. And there's a bunch of good food for thought for you in the chat. I mentioned this to the last caller, but I think it would be really good to hear some kind of an update from you in a few weeks from now, after you've done some reading. And I would also, I don't know if you were listening to the last call, but did you hear us talking about the 4 agreements? I feel like maybe that might be a good book for you to check out.
Yeah, I did hear it.
I don't know if I put it in the chat. Let me put it in the chat. Just to make sure I did. I'm not sure if I did. I'm putting it in now. This book comes up a decent amount here on this stream. This is an amazing book. I read this book every couple years just as a reminder to myself. I've read it about 4 or 5 times. And let's see here. The 4 agreements. There might be some typos. I'm going fast. But there it is. It's in the chat for you. A Goodreads link. Amazing book. A very short book. It's like 120 pages. Very easy to read. This is a book. It's just 4 agreements you make with yourself. And if there's one thought I want to leave you with tonight, it's just that please, like, this already, but I'm trying to frame it in a slightly different light. You already know you're going through a lot. You're going through a lot, but I'm trying to frame it to you in a more upbeat, positive light, because it's not because I'm trying to skew something in that way, but it's because it's what I'm hearing. It's what I'm hearing. You're under some pretty strict circumstances with your parents, and it doesn't seem fair to me. And I'm not a judge. I don't know your parents. I'm not here to judge them, but I hear the pain in your voice, and I certainly don't believe that anybody deserves to wake up each day with this amount of pain on them. The pain you're communicating. Like, people ought to wake up every day wondering what it is that they're going to solve, how they're going to make the world better. That's what life is about. How do we make the world a better place? And you can do that. You can do that through your degree if you keep up the work. You can do it through how you love others in your personal life. It doesn't have to be any one of these things. It can be any of them. You could be horrible at your job and be an incredible inspiration to your friends and impact the world that way. Or you could be a horrible friend like Steve Jobs and revolutionize the world with technology. There's holes in this plot, but you get the point. The point is, like, there's no right or wrong way. So I'm trying to help you see this in a positive way for tomorrow.
Thank you.
What is one thing you can do tomorrow that will make tomorrow different than today? One small thing. One very small thing. What's one very small thing that is achievable tomorrow? Whether it's eating an orange, or meditating for 10 minutes, or going for a run, or studying like 10% harder. What is one small achievable thing you can do tomorrow? Reading a book, whatever it is. What is one thing within your grasp that you can do tomorrow that will make tomorrow different than today?
Definitely, I think I'm gonna try to take a walk early in the morning, or push myself to wake up a little earlier than stay in bed.
Good. Great. That's a great first step. That's amazing. And will you call back in a few weeks and give us an update, even if you got more, even if the plot thickens, even if it's worse, will you call us in a few weeks? Because I know the chat's going to want an update, and there's so much love going out to you in the chat. I wish I had gotten to more in the chat for you, but you're amazing, and don't give up. Don't give up the fight. You are amazing. Don't believe the stuff that you're feeling from your family. Don't believe it.
Thank you.
Are you okay?
It feels really good to kind of feel hurt.
So those are good tears or bad tears? I'm feeling like I inflamed something. I'm feeling worse now.
They're good tears.
Okay, good. I was a little worried there for a second. I believe everything I said. Nobody deserves to feel the way you feel. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you in a few weeks.
Thank you, Julian.
Thank you. Good night. Have a good day tomorrow, okay?
You too. Bye.
Good night. My goodness, chat. What a night. My goodness. Thank you all for being here. These streams are so special to me. You guys are amazing for being here, especially so late. Huge thank you to the chat for all the thoughts. I'm really sorry I didn't get to more. What an emotional night. Easy cheesy saying throwback Thursday to the 3-hour streams. Yeah, we had a 3-hour stream tonight, guys. Wow. Wowzer. 3-hour stream. Such amazing stories tonight in the on the phone lines. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to our mods. A massive thank you to our mods for keeping the chat clean and on point. Thank you to King's Pawn, Easy Cheesy, and I believe I saw Deanna Krebs earlier. Am I missing that? Maybe I'm making that up. Deanna's here a lot of the time, so maybe Deanna was just here with us in spirit. Maybe I'm making that up. Thank you for the super chats. I'm seeing a couple super chats from Caleb Stevens and Wadude. You guys are amazing. Thank you for the support. We've gone very late tonight. We do these chats. Okay, Deanna was here. I wasn't making it up. Our mods are amazing. Gosh, like our mods here give so much. If you're not in the Discord server, our mods, gosh, guys, I'm tearing up. This is crazy. Our mods in the Discord server, they do so much there. The Discord is an incredible place. If you got anything out of this, the Discord is a great place for you to be. It's just a bunch of people talking like this all week long. We do these streams 2 times a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. The link is in the chat. Easy cheesy. Just posted it. You can join that. And it's totally free. It's just a place for people to talk about stuff. We have several different rooms available, including a completely anonymous room where you can post 100% anonymously. I don't know who's posting there. Our mods or admins do not know who's posting there. You can make a confession there. We've done our best to set up a place in Discord where it's safe for people to share whatever's on their minds. And again, we have accountability channels, so there's places for people to share positive updates and difficult stuff and whatever sounds like what you need. We've done our best to make it that place. So thank you guys so much for being here. We've gone super late. You guys are awesome. I will see you here again on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And yeah, there's some stuff coming here next week. I know I've been saying that for a few weeks, but next week is the week. There are some announcements coming here on this channel next week that have been in the works for goodness. I don't even know how to quantify that. Maybe a decade? In reality, probably only a year, but for all intents and purposes, the better part of a decade. So I'm very excited about what's coming next week. And thank you guys so much for being here. I will see you on Tuesday. Good night.